Single dad did CPR on a stranger, then found out she was a billionaire heiress. Marcus Johnson was running late for his daughter's soccer game when he saw the woman collapse in the parking lot. Most people would have kept walking, telling themselves someone else would help. But Marcus wasn't most people. He dropped his daughter's water bottle and sprinted toward the stranger, his EMT training from years ago flooding back into his mind. As he started chest compressions on the unconscious woman, he had no idea that this single act of kindness would change his entire life. Because the woman he was saving wasn't just anyone. She was Catherine Ashford, the only daughter of one of America's wealthiest families, and this moment would set off a chain of events that nobody could have predicted. What happened next will restore your faith in humanity and remind you why kindness always matters, no matter who's watching. But before we dive into this incredible story, if you love heartwarming tales that remind us of the good in this world, please hit that subscribe button and join our Heartfelt Moments family. Give this video a thumbs up if you believe in the power of kindness, and drop a comment below telling us about a time someone helped you when you needed it most. Now, let's get back to Marcus and Catherine's amazing story. Marcus Johnson had been a single father for 3 years. After his wife passed away from cancer, he'd been raising his 8-year-old daughter Emma on his own, working 2 jobs to make ends meet. He delivered packages during the day and worked as a security guard at night. Money was always tight, and there were times when Marcus wondered how he'd pay the next bill or afford Emma's school supplies. But he never complained. Emma was his world, and he'd do anything to give her a good life. That Saturday afternoon in April, Marcus was rushing through the parking lot of Emma's school, already 10 minutes late for her game. He'd promised her he'd be there, and the guilt was eating at him. That's when he noticed a crowd forming near the entrance. People were standing around, some holding their phones, others looking confused and scared. In the center of the circle, a well-dressed woman in her early 60s lay motionless on the pavement. Marcus pushed through the crowd. "Has anyone called 911?" he shouted. Someone nodded, but nobody was doing anything to help. The woman wasn't breathing. Without hesitation, Marcus knelt beside her, checked for a pulse, and immediately began CPR. His hands moved with practiced precision, counting compressions, giving rescue breaths, willing the stranger to live. For 7 long minutes, Marcus worked on her, sweat dripping down his face, his arms burning with exhaustion. He refused to give up. Finally, the woman gasped. Her eyes fluttered open just as the paramedics arrived. They took over, loading her onto a stretcher, and Marcus stepped back into the crowd, his hands shaking from adrenaline. One of the paramedics turned to him and said, "You saved her life, sir." Another minute and it would have been too late. Marcus simply nodded, grabbed the water bottle he'd dropped, and hurried to Emma's game. He didn't ask the woman's name. He didn't wait for thanks. He just did what he believed anyone should do, help someone in need. 2 days later, Marcus was at home when there was a knock at his door. A man in an expensive suit stood on his porch, holding a briefcase. "Are you Marcus Johnson?" the man asked. "My name is Richard Chin. I'm the attorney for Catherine Ashford. You saved her life on Saturday." Marcus invited him in, still confused. Mr. Chen explained that Catherine had suffered a massive heart attack in that parking lot. The doctors said if Marcus hadn't performed CPR immediately, she wouldn't have survived. Catherine wanted to meet him and thank him personally. A week later, Marcus and Emma were invited to the Ashford estate. When they arrived, Marcus couldn't believe his eyes. The mansion was like something from a movie, with sprawling gardens and a fountain in the driveway. Catherine met them at the door, looking healthy and vibrant, a far cry from the lifeless woman he'd seen on the pavement. She hugged Marcus tightly, tears streaming down her face. "You gave me a second chance at life," she said. "I can never repay you for that." Marcus felt embarrassed by the attention. "I just did what anyone would do," he said softly. But Catherine shook her head. "No, Marcus. Dozens of people stood around me that day. You were the only one who acted. You were the only one who cared enough to try." Over tea, Catherine learned about Marcus's life. She learned about Emma, about his late wife, about the 2 jobs and the struggle to make ends meet. She learned that Marcus had once dreamed of becoming a paramedic but had to drop out of the program when his wife got sick. She learned that he'd sold almost everything he owned to pay for her medical bills. What Catherine did next shocked Marcus completely. She offered to pay for Emma's education, from elementary school through college. She offered Marcus a job managing one of her charitable foundations, a position that would use his natural compassion and give him financial stability. But more than that, she became a part of their lives. Catherine, who had never had children of her own, became like a grandmother to Emma. Marcus tried to refuse at first. He'd saved her life because it was the right thing to do, not for a reward. But Catherine explained that this wasn't about repayment. "You reminded me what truly matters, Marcus," she said. "All my life, I've been surrounded by people who wanted something from me. You wanted nothing. You risked being late for your daughter's game to save a stranger's life. That kind of heart is rare." Over the following months, Marcus and Catherine developed a deep friendship. She established a scholarship fund in his late wife's name. He helped her redirect millions of dollars to causes that truly made a difference, helping other struggling families like his had been. Today, Marcus still tells Emma the same thing he always has: kindness costs nothing, but it's worth everything. He didn't save Catherine's life hoping for a reward. He did it because when we see someone in need, we help. Period. This story reminds us that we never know the full impact of our actions. We never know whose life we might change with a single act of compassion. Marcus was just trying to do the right thing, but that moment of kindness transformed 2 lives forever. So the next time you see someone who needs help, be like Marcus. Don't wait for someone else to step up. Don't assume it's not your problem. Choose kindness. Choose action. Choose to care. Because in that moment when someone needs you most, you might just be the miracle they've been praying for.